Yeah.
Okay.
No stopping us now, Bridget. Hey,
All
everybody, I'm
right.
Mike Vincent. Welcome to the SUSTAINIACS. I am Michael Vincent. She is Bridget Palmer, and she is founder of We Save the World, which is pretty cool. I'm going to guess that you guys are saving the world there, right? Is that what you guys do?
And
Actually,
we're
it's
doing
really,
our
really
best.
cool. Why don't you tell everybody what you guys are doing there? I think it's awesome.
All right. Thanks, Michael. Yeah. So I picked a really bold name because it's the 21st century, and I got inspired by a woman that wrote this book called Futuring, Nancy Giordano. And her
Oh,
point is
okay.
that, everything's different from the last century, and we've got a lot of really huge problems to cope with. So just really go for it and try to make a huge difference. So that's why I picked the name We Save the World.
Oh, that's cool. That's
Yeah.
cool. It's called Futuring.
Yeah, the book is called Futuring. It's an excellent book.
That's
And
interesting.
so my point is to do as much as I can to save nature and empower young people. And so my idea was that if we create this fun platform that kids could use for fundraising for environmental nonprofits, we could raise millions and millions of dollars to support those nonprofits. And they're really the people that are on the front lines of saving habitats and, hiring people to fight poachers and all the things that we really need done. They know how to do it. So that was my point, was to support them with funding from those of us that really care but aren't right there on the front lines doing it ourselves.
I gotcha. Yeah, because everybody's got their input, right? And that's part of the problem of trying to get solutions. Is people go, what can I do? Well, every little thing helps, and everybody can do something positive from where they sit, um, no matter what it is that they want to impact in a positive way, right? I mean,
Exactly. We can all do a
everything.
little something. Like this last weekend, I did a creek cleanup. So, there was like 10 of us and we went and cleaned up our local creek, and that's really important. That's
Well,
another important thing.
recycle something that you didn't last week.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Whatever. I mean, there's a ton of little things, and outside of that as well, right? I mean, just walking around, there's things that you can do in your normal life to make things better in the planet in every way, not just environmentally, right? Socially, etc. Right? I
True.
mean, that's when you look at that book, Futuring. It's interesting that you said that it was like it says we've got such big problems to deal with now. Are they? Are they any bigger than they used to be? Or are they
Well, in
just
terms of
different?
climate change potentially undermining the existence of humans, I think that's pretty big.
Yeah, I agree, but that's always been I mean, it's always been an issue, right? I mean,
Mm,
I mean, we've always been impacting it in a negative way. We've always been going down that route, right? I
well,
get it.
I
It's
think it has a lot to do with modern history. I mean, let's be
yeah,
real.
but what I'm
It
saying is,
wasn't.
but I'm saying we were always sprinting down that road. We're always sprinting down that road. Is what I'm saying, right? We were always innovating and doing things and not thinking about what the ultimate consequences could be. And maybe
Yes.
not always, but we've certainly lost what we've conscious capitalism, I always say, right? Or responsibility for what is going on. It's the extraction. And we're seeing it now, even socially, even worse, as people try and say things are really technology is helping us in many, many ways. I contend that our knowledge outpaces our intelligence, right? It outpaces our ability
I
to
think
use
that's
that knowledge,
true. I think
and
that's
that's
true in
that's
a
part of
way.
the issue, right? And
Yeah.
people just forget and they take advantage of certain things. I love what you're doing. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to argue
Yeah.
with you about potential climate change and all that kind of stuff, because the way I look at it is it doesn't matter. I mean, of course, it matters in the sense of climate change or no climate change, right? But what I'm saying is, in your daily lives, and the way you treat the environment, and the way you treat the wildlife, and the way you treat you know, your social circle, etc., everything, it's not okay to just pollute it anyways. Right? I mean, if tomorrow
No.
somebody came out and said, "Look, climate change is wrong. Everything's going to be perfect forever and ever, no matter what we do," it still doesn't make any sense to pollute the hell out of the environment. it still doesn't make any sense to eradicate entire species for our convenience, etc. That type of thing, right? I mean, it's just common sense in
Yeah.
many places.
I think there's a lot of things we didn't know before. Like,
Sure,
we didn't know
yeah,
that there was
sure.
a limited amount of fish in the ocean. So we got into this, you know, taking harvesting, and now there's, some kinds of, I don't know the names of them exactly, but I know there's some sort of fishing practices, the deep sea, kind of like going down to the bottom and dragging along the bottom of the ocean to get every last fish, when they're wiping out ecosystems of fish that are not going to be replenished. So we didn't used to do that in the past because we didn't know how, but now some people seem to be kind of seeking shorter term profits but not caring that in the end, the whole of humanity and, of course, the fish in their ecosystem are going to be worse off. So, as we're learning these things, we need to respond to the new information. And that, I think, is a problem because some people are in habits, or, they feel desperate to have a livelihood. And so they're like, oh, well, I'll just keep doing my little bit. It'll be okay. But as a whole
Yeah,
species,
somebody else will solve it, right? It is that somebody else will solve it thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I think there's a
I
huge.
get exactly what you're saying. It's wealth extraction at all costs, or it's aggressive ignorance. I like to call it as
Mm.
well, which doesn't mean that people are stupid. That's not what I'm saying. And that, like, they're mentally, less cognitive or whatever it happens to be. I'm saying they're ignorant to the impacts of what they're doing. Right? They don't understand. They're not thinking clearly through the impacts of extraction. But our society pushes us towards that. Right? It's what we. The story of whether a company is good or not is how much wealth it produces or extracts. And I mean, you can argue with me all you want about no, it's profits. It's wealth extraction. Period. The end. You need to, and why doesn't a different story um,
Yeah, I feel like little by
tell
little
the
the
tale,
the
right, of the
narrative is
work?
changing little by little, but
I think it is. I think it is, and what you guys are doing there helps because let's concentrate on what you're doing, and we can get into
yeah,
all these different rabbit holes. But let's get back to what you're
yeah.
doing. Is as far as
My
we save the world, where's your focus to make that impact? When I
my
look at it, what
focus
you're
is,
doing there, it's more in the youth, right? Is
it's
that correct?
really on, I call it unleashing the fundraising superpowers of youth.
Okay,
Because my
fantastic.
point is that these nonprofits in the environmental sphere, they're very aware of all the
Yeah,
problems, and people that really care and really know what they're doing are putting a lot of effort into addressing the problems, on behalf of all of us, really, on behalf of the animals and the ecosystems, on behalf of the humans that live all around the planet. So I want to help them. That's not my background. I'm a performing artist. I'm a teacher. So I'm not an expert in all that. But I know that kids have huge hearts and they really care. So my idea was, how can I harness technology and my creativity to empower kids to do more, to do something that really matters besides just caring? What can they really do? So that's why We Save the World is this digital platform that I think is attractive to kids, so that they can learn something about the environment. Maybe it's something they didn't know before, following their curiosity about something they care about, like about sea turtles or polar bears or sharks or gorillas, something that caught their attention. They're curious about it. They learn more by opening up one of our, story templates, and then they write a story using facts we gave them and or their own research. They can put anything in their story they want, and then they can share their story out to people who love them and care about their future. So, for instance, if I love polar bears, if I was a child, I write a story about what's going on with polar bears, showing that I understand the issues and I really care. And then I share that story, like with my grandmother, with my aunt and uncle, maybe with my neighbor across the street. And I say, listen, polar bears are really in crisis. Will you please help a little bit? Help me to save polar bears and preserve my future. Because I want, I am a mom. If I have, and I have, my children are grown, but if I have grandchildren someday, I want there to be polar bears. I want them to experience all the beautiful things that I got to experience when I was growing up. I don't want it to all be destroyed. So I did these calculations about, what's the trajectory if I succeed in inspiring people to use this platform, which I think is kind of fun and easy. We could raise literally hundreds of millions of dollars within not that many years to help these nonprofits do their work. And it's like such a little bit of money from every person. But if many, many people do it, it's a huge impact. So that's where I'm coming from.
Yeah. So, and it educates the children at the same time, right? I mean, they're
Yeah.
looking at what's going.
And their
So,
parents and their grandparents. Maybe their grandparents and parents aren't as tuned into it as their kids. Maybe the kids learn about it in school. I don't know.
so if I'm reading, so they go in, they research something, or they can research anything, right? I mean, they're exposed to different things, and maybe something catches their eye. Is that
Right
how it
now
starts?
we have 22 missions on our platform. I have an intention to expand it a bit farther. I don't want to have too many because it'll be just too hard to choose, I think. But we've got a lot of the basic keystone animals or animals that we think young people really care about. And then we've got some different ecosystems on there, like tropical rainforests or the ocean. Um, One is called the Climate Reality Project. They're dealing with climate change. So basically, every single mission that a child would choose on our platform is linked directly to an environmental nonprofit. And so, whatever fundraising they do with their story, 85% of that money goes directly to that nonprofit. We are keeping 15% to try to cover the expenses of We Save the World existing.
Gotcha, gotcha. And expand it, obviously, advertise it, get it out there to more people, because that's the goal, is to evangelize what you're doing. So I got you. So there, yeah, because if you had it like open to where they could just naturally flow into a specific area, you can't have that many connections to NPOs in order to cover anything that people would want, right?
No.
And right, yeah, that wouldn't work. So how are you choosing? Because in this obvious, we let's talk about everything that's out there in reality. There's a lot of skepticism with NPOs. There always has been to a certain level, but even more so now. And there's a movement towards, well, there was all these scams and all this kind of stuff. And like we were talking earlier and alluding to, there's people who don't believe in climate change or something like that. It doesn't matter if you believe in climate change. Wiping out the polar bears and destroying environmental areas, when is that? It's not okay. That's not responsible. It's not the right thing to do, right? Let's just do the right things. But how do you vet? Do you vet these
Mhm.
NPOs, and are there
Yeah,
reports on them and that type of stuff so
I
that they?
start with services like GuideStar
Uh huh.
and Charity Navigator. So I read
Yeah.
about them on the back end. You can get their most recent financial reports there. You can sort of see their board of directors. You can see how
Yeah.
much of their money is going to pay their top executives. So that's really where I start. I just go there. So I only choose ones that have very high ratings from many people.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Gotcha.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, so you're vetting them as best as you can for those, and then people, when the kids go in there and they start looking at these type of things, are can they choose the NPO? I mean,
Yeah. I have
theoretically,
it
their
set up
parents
so,
are guiding them as well, right?
yeah,
So there could
yeah.
be multiple NPOs by category, right?
That's how it is set up.
Yeah,
Yeah. And just let me say one caveat. I'm
yeah,
doing a little experiment. It hasn't yielded anything yet. So, but I just want
yeah,
to, like, full transparency. I did put this one nonprofit in Cameroon, this one that I have a personal relationship with, so I know what they're doing.
yeah.
The one that's called the Eco Friends in Cameroon. But
Okay.
all the other ones are just like your traditional nonprofits.
Why
So
is Eco Friends non-traditional? You have
uh,
an affinity for them, right? I mean, you know what they're doing. So why is that there? Why is this a special one in
well,
your mind? We can talk. We're allowed to talk about
all the other
that.
ones are they have like their offices in the United States.
Yeah,
So they're
yeah,
just
yeah,
your
yeah,
traditional nonprofits. So if
yeah,
anybody
yeah,
can
yeah.
do any kind of research about them, there's like nothing to be skeptical about anything. The Eco Friends in Cameroon, they're just like a little tiny shoestring nonprofit. They just go out and clean up the beaches, and we help them make a little library. So there's not much money flowing there, and there's like nothing bad they could do with it. So I just thought I'm going to put them on there because I know them personally. I know they're
Yeah,
not
you
doing
got to
anything
introduce
bad.
me again. You got to introduce me again to them. Those are the guys that you were introducing me to. I never
Yes.
got anything back from them. You need to
Oh,
introduce me
really?
to those
Because a
guys.
wee told me that he
Yeah,
connected to you. So if you
I
need more
don't.
help, I'll be happy to help
Yeah,
you.
please redo it. But let's
Yeah,
let's
sure.
yeah let's
Yeah.
keep that. I want to keep that going because I'd love to have them.
Yeah. So the way our organization is set up is that people make an account, very simple little account, and then they get into their Eco-Hero dashboard. So a kid gets his Eco-Hero dashboard. He chooses or she chooses an avatar to kind of inspire their imagination. Like, okay, I am an Eco-Hero. They write a little statement about why they want to save the world. They choose a name. They can choose any name they want. They just make it up, and then they choose a mission. And we have 5 categories of the missions. One is animals, one is water, one is trees, one is clean planet. That's where you'll find the Climate Reality Project and also the Eco Friends because they're cleaning plastic up off the beaches. And then I just more recently put one other category, which was think global, act local. And I put a couple local nonprofits in my area.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I'm just thinking, I'm just still really experimenting because as we talked before, this is basically a new-ish nonprofit.
Yeah,
So
well, you guys you just start. Have you launched?
it's been like we are launched. It's been, I don't know, like a year and a half, I'd say, since
Okay,
we
so you're
had it
new.
available.
You are new. Yeah.
Okay. Um, and so they will see it's like a little kind of menu just with photo whatever category they choose. Like let's say they choose animals. I put most of the choices in animals because I think most young people are just attracted to animals. So I counted there's 14 different animals. They'll see a little beautiful photograph of each animal, like a polar bear or a sea turtle or a rhino. They click on that, and then they get into the story template. So whichever one they chose, it shows them, you will be supporting this nonprofit, like the Red Panda Network. And then each story has 3 parts. The first part is Did you know? It's populated with facts about the animal or the ecosystem. The second part is Habitat concerns, so some more facts. And then the last part is How humans can help. And in the third part of the story, we're giving them facts from the nonprofit so they understand how that nonprofit is making a difference. And there's a little one column is some of the facts they can use, and then the other column is just blank space with a little prompt question. So they can type in there whatever they want to write. There's no limit, they can type as much as they want. And then we have one last space for them to write, which is their personal statement. If they want to write something to their potential supporters, asking them, like, please help me save red pandas. They're so cute. There's a keystone species in the Himalayas, and whatever. And then they go into what's called the fundraising wizard, which is just a cute little page where they can think about who might support them. Oh, all right, my grandpa will probably give me $20 towards this. My mom will probably give me 10. My Aunt Susie, maybe she'll give me 50. And so each amount of money that they put in adds up in a little tabulator. So they have some realistic idea if they're old enough to even know about these things. Like, wow, I could probably raise $100, or I could raise 2,000, depending upon their family and their connections. And then after they've got that set, they get a hyperlink for their story. And then it's up to them to send it to anyone they want. So we're not trying to pre-collect anybody's personal data. It's totally up to the young person and their family, who they send it to, how they share it, where it goes. So they can keep it super private and just email it or text it to a few people. Or if they want to, they could post the link on their Facebook or somewhere else, more public. And then all those donations that come in through Stripe, which is a very trusted payment platform. And then each month we look and see what came in, and then we take 85% of it for any given cause, and we send that off to that nonprofit, and we keep the 15% for us. So that's how it works.
So are you yourself a nonprofit?
Yeah, we're a nonprofit.
You are also a nonprofit. So
Yeah,
you report back and all that kind of stuff. So it's very transparent what you're using
totally.
all
Yeah.
those money for
At
and
the
all that kind of
beginning,
stuff.
honestly, I considered like, oh, maybe this could be a for-profit company
Yeah,
because it could be. But then I
sure.
thought about it more deeply and I said, you know what? What I really want is to save the environment. So I'm taking away any kind of blocks that could make people not want to do this. It's not about me. It's all nonprofit. No one's getting rich. And we're 85% of the money is going to the nonprofits, and we're just trying to cover our expenses, and we're nowhere near it. Right now we're nowhere near covering our expenses. But I'm just still going because I really believe in the vision. I believe that these millions and millions, possibly hundreds of millions, could go to the nonprofits, and I want it to happen. So
And it's we save the world one word.org.
yeah.
Yeah. And we're going to put that in. It'll be on here. We'll get this out there because you should have as much support as you possibly can, because it's very difficult. And you're a nonprofit, you're supporting nonprofits, and human altruism waxes and wanes like crazy, as you know, right?
Yeah.
And there's people out there for whatever reason that think that environmental causes, et cetera, um, are a waste of time, or they've been hijacked by an ideology that they don't believe in, or it's left issue, or it's a right issue, whatever you happen to be, right? They polarize it for some reason. When I contend, like you do, it's just common sense, people. Let's do the right things here, right? So is there do you take this into the educational realm? I mean, it is an educational thing because they're learning it, but do you formally do that? Is there a way
I'm
to link
trying.
this into educational institutions, whether they be private or public?
Yeah. That's like a new strategy that has been
Ah,
enabled by our progress over the summer. Because
oh,
over the
okay, great.
summer, we made an educator version of our software. Before that, we only had the version for the general public. So, what we have made in our educator version is that there's tools for teachers, first of all. So, a teacher can add students into their own group, and they can also see the back end of the writing for the students. And there's two ways they can give feedback to their students. They can either give kind of global feedback, or they can highlight writing within the student's writing and then give specific comments, like in this part of the paragraph, oh, you really need more details in this, or I think you need to write more deeply about this particular part of your writing, it's too on the surface, or something like that. So those are something that a teacher's gave me as far as her feedback about what we're doing. And the other thing is that not all schools are going to be able to do fundraising. I really, really wish and hope they would, but I understand, there's schools with affluent families and other schools where they don't have them. And that is totally fine, because what I really care about is connecting to the kids. And so if they need to, they can also toggle off the fundraising, and they can just use it as a story writing template. And
Yeah, because I mean, the idea is the future stewards of the world, right? Of the earth, of the environment, and educating
that's
them.
right.
That's your
And
real mission, right?
if the young people want to, they can also just do the other version of it with a fundraising at home.
On
Maybe they
themselves,
write their
yeah.
story in class, the teacher helped them craft it to make it better. They can just go home, make another account that has the fundraising, and just copy and paste their story in there and send it out from there.
Is there transparency back as to what their impact is on these things? Do they see positive or negative results of different efforts? Because not everything goes in a positive way. I mean, obviously there's not going to be a negative result of their money being spent there, right? But
Yeah.
there are gains and there are losses in every effort we put forth
The
in
the
the
way
world.
they
But
know
did they
what
get in? They get any impact transparency to see what their money's doing?
um I can't say that they see what their money's doing other
Yeah,
than if they go
yeah,
on the website of that nonprofit. Well, the kind of feedback that we're able
yeah.
to give them is that somebody made a donation. They have like a little thermometer, you know,
Gotcha.
they were trying to raise $80 and they'll see, oh, I got to 20. Oh, I got to 40. So they'll see if they reach their goal or not. And we also created a mechanism where anybody that makes a donation gets a little window where they can type in some words of encouragement. Like, oh, Sarah, I'm so glad you're trying to save sharks. You know, we're cheering you on. So they can get those positive messages for their activism.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
And then,
awesome.
they know which environmental nonprofit they're supporting so they can go there anytime and see what they're up to.
It's interesting to build a link back from those nonprofits that you're listing. Once you vet them and you have them in there to get that, they've got to have some sort of propaganda that comes back from them that they're saying, "Hey, we're doing this," or "We just got this done,"
They
or that
report
done,
on it
that
all
type
the
of stuff.
time. They have
Well, I mean,
newsletters,
just
they have
back
annual
through,
report.
yeah, yeah. So extracting from those, or ripping from those some information back into the people for that transparency, I bet would be pretty impactful, right? For them to actually see what their money's doing.
Honestly, Michael, I think that's a great idea, but I only have so
Yeah.
much bandwidth. So,
No, I'm just putting it out
yeah.
there. Yeah. No, I mean, this is because I think this is a great idea, and anybody goes, you know
Yeah.
what, that's a great idea. Let me call her. I can help with that. That's the purpose of me bringing those up.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
Please volunteer. Help me. I need volunteers. I
Reach
need
out to
more
her.
people.
Yeah, support it, support it, support it. I mean it is one of those things where you're a nonprofit, and if you can get it back to or be supported through some sort of conscious capitalism or responsible capitalism, it helps to support, right? Because you, you know it, we don't want to extract wealth for the extraction of wealth, but we want our efforts and our capitalism to be positive and impactful and to be sustainable in every sense of the word of sustainability, right? Whether you're talking environmental or as a business, right? And efforts like yours, like what you're trying to do here in the positive, we want it to be sustainable and to occur and keep going and not be hijacked by ulterior or nefarious
Yeah.
motives. Because
I have an idea.
unfortunately, that does happen at times, right?
Okay.
You
Yeah.
know,
I don't know if I'll succeed in this, but one of my ideas is to try to get um, other foundations or corporations that care about the environment to create kind of like little mini funds. Like, for instance, a certain corporation would be like, wow, I love this idea of inspiring kids. I care about the environment for whatever their reasons are, maybe a smaller carbon footprint or whatever. So they put up some funds, like let's say $20,000. And then they're kind of matching, either matching funds, like, oh, a young person raises $50, they'll match it with a 50. Or maybe they're even saying, like, you know what, every kid that does a mission will give $20 towards whatever nonprofit they chose. So either way, there's just more money flowing towards the nonprofits. So the company knows they're saving the environment, but they're also empowering kids in the process. They're getting kids involved, they're triggering their minds, and they're giving them this kind of feeling of self confidence and self worth because they're doing something to make a difference in their future. To me, that
yeah.
seems beautiful. I haven't figured out how to do it yet, but that's sort of something that I like to try.
Well, that's another invitation for someone who's got the spirit to be a guide and help to contact you and say, "Hey, I got some ideas on how to do this." So those
Yeah.
brainstorming about some of those things because you're new, you're up and going. You're not trying to compete with anybody. You're trying to do something good in the world. So going through these brainstorming sessions and getting out there into the
Yeah.
future is really good. Some people that I interview will not talk about certain things because it's that's their secret sauce. They got to play stealth for a while before it comes out, right? It's a competitive
Mm.
advantage, but that's one of the things. It's difficult. We need transparency. We need collaboration. But how do you deal with that when you're talking about things that are competitive advantages and or industrial? in industry proprietary
Sure, that
intelligence,
makes sense.
right?
Yeah.
Becomes difficult. It's hard sometimes, right? It's very very hard. Have you been able to make any research or any outreach with corporations or educational institutions and talking to
Um,
anybody about those different
so
types of
far, I've
goals?
only been doing outreach to schools to try to get our
Uh huh.
educator version into schools.
Uh huh.
But the other part, I'm hoping within the next few months I'll do it. I have a new board member, and
Oh,
she's
nice.
much more tuned into the corporate world. I really am not. I've never
Yeah.
worked in big corporations. I don't really know how they work that well. I know
Right.
some of them have these sort of sustainability goals or departments or something, but it's sort of just new territory for me. So I'm hoping she'll help me with that.
Yeah, well, that's good. That growth sounds really good, and I think that's a great path. You're off to a good start. I mean, how many? So, do you can you divulge how popular it is yet, or you don't want to talk about that yet?
I can divulge it. It's not nearly popular enough. I think
Right.
I think we've like have like $4,000 come through, which is
Hey,
almost nothing.
it is nothing, but it's a start, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes I feel discouraged because I've put many, many tens of thousands of dollars into this, my own
Yeah.
self.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So if
Yeah.
it doesn't work, I'm going to be really, really sad about it and depressed. But to me, it's worth the risk because if it does pay off, it's going to be at least millions, if not hundreds of millions, to help save the environment. So it's like you got to start somewhere. I'm doing the best I can.
Yeah.
And I just am trusting, having faith that at some point I'm going to meet the right people that realize, oh my God, this is a really brilliant idea. Let's help. Let's make this thing happen
Well, it
because I
seems
don't
like
see
the
any
tech stack.
downside to it.
Yeah, no, there isn't, and the tech stack that you've built seems, like a really good foundation, and the angles that you can take it, and your willingness and openness to new ideas on how to kind of push this forward and reach out and find newer and more impactful or effective, efficient ways. You're very open to doing those things. So, hey, we save the world.org is where people need to get in touch with you and that have ideas and can help, right? Because
Yeah. It-
it's fantastic because you hate to, you got to have the right guide. You have to have the right decisions, right? Because optionality can kill you. And you're in one of those locations right now or periods in time in the growth and the start of your business where too many fingers going off screws it, right? It
yes.
kills it.
We
So
have
you
to
got to
become
find,
more clear. Where is it working, right? And
yeah,
follow that. Once it
exactly.
becomes more
You
clear.
need that strategist because I'll tell you what, your man, your website is pretty sweet, and it looks like your tech stack is really nice. The graphics and everything are in there, so there's definitely value behind this, and you can see the effort that you guys put into it. It's fantastic. Let me ask you this, Bridget. I mean, you've committed tens of thousands of dollars to this. You can see how committed you are in your face. You can hear it in your voice and what you're trying to do here. Um, what was the event that said, "I'm doing this. This is my mission in life now." Did you get hit in the
Um,
head and God said, "Do this"? Did you see? Was there, or did it just kind of evolve inside of you? What led you to this?
well, I think in a kind of a sort of a sideways way, it was the COVID shutdown.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because before that, I was just extremely, extremely busy doing my life, which was teaching children's theater,
Oh, wow.
and I'm just sort of on this treadmill of that. Always got to plan the next class, always got to advertise the next class, just busy, 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 busy. Oh, you need the costumes. Oh, you need the. Um, and then all of a sudden, when COVID came and I couldn't go to schools anymore, I was like, "Whoa, I have all this extra time." And I got involved in two projects. One was writing a screenplay, which had an environmental story behind it, and the other was this idea. What do I care about? And I'm so emotional. Sorry. Um,
It's all right. This is good stuff. People
yeah,
have these experiences and they ignore them.
Uh-huh.
And what you're telling me right now is very inspirational. So
Oh,
please
that's
continue if you can.
um
We'll wait.
yeah,
We'll
like
wait for you.
honestly, I'm 59. I'm 59. So I'm approaching retirement age. Uh my my mother, she started getting dementia about 20 years ago. And I don't think that I have dementia, but it really brought home to me, you never know how long you have. So
No, no, you don't.
I want to make sure that I'm making the most of my time on Earth. And
Yeah,
I
yeah,
love
yeah, yeah.
children. My whole life has been about children. I have my own children. And I also love nature. Part of my childhood, I lived in a redwood forest. And I feel good in nature, as probably many people do, except maybe people that grew up in big cities and they feel nervous if they go in nature.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think that most humans feel something special about the peace of nature. And
Yeah.
it just kind of
Well,
kills me to think,
even people haven't been in nature there and grew
yeah,
up in it, and I did a lot. I mean, I grew up in the suburbs. I didn't grow up in a forest like you, but I had a big swamp and forest behind our house, and I spent
yeah,
all my childhood out there in that type of stuff, doing fishing and so on and so forth, hunting with friends and all that other kind of stuff. So yeah, I kind of get it, not as much as other people do,
yeah,
but even people who aren't there, like where I live in Chattanooga, everybody lives downtown, but every second that they're free, they're out in the mountains, whitewater rafting or hiking or doing stuff like that, because that's what Chattanooga is,
yeah,
which is interesting. And people from New York City and Los Angeles and the big cities have moved here, especially over the COVID shutdown, because they figured out that we can work remote
yeah,
and live and have a very good quality of life here uh, and experience this type of life instead of being stuck on a lower Manhattan or something like that, right?
yeah. And
And
I forgot to
they do
mention,
that.
Mike, the other event. I think maybe I told you earlier, but now I forgot. But now I remembered. Is that in 2017, this huge fire called the Tubbs Fire
Yeah,
burned across my part of my city. And
yeah,
it was the biggest, I think, urban wildfire to date at that time. We lost like 5,000 homes in my city.
yeah.
And it
Wow.
came across my property. Luckily for me, it didn't burn down our main house. We had a second older kind of cottage, which had all
Yeah,
my theater supplies in it, and it burned to the ground. We had a lot of damage to our fences and our landscaping, and some houses across the street burned down. But that also was very, very traumatic for my city. There
yeah.
was
I can
one neighborhood
imagine.
where like 1,000 houses burned down. And so that just brings climate change, bam, right in your face. Because I grew up in this place. I've been here for decades in the city, and we never had anything like this. And after 2017, we went through about 5 years where we either had another wildfire of significant size somewhere nearby, or we had a bunch of smoke coming into our city from a fire that was a little farther. And sometimes we had to shut down the schools. I had one show that got shut down early. And thank God we aren't in that time period right now. For whatever
Yeah,
reasons, the fires haven't come back here, but we know they could at any moment. And so it terrified us.
yeah.
And that also was really a wake up call about the seriousness of climate change.
Well, and yeah, exactly. And it is those type of stressful events on a society that cause change, right? Most positives come from some sort of stressful negative that occurred or
Yeah.
stressful in some way to a society, to an individual, whatever it happens to be. And that's why we ask, what was the event that made you do this? And it's usually a stressful thing. And stress doesn't always happen from a negative thing. Sometimes we're stressed because we experience something incredibly powerful and positive that you go, holy cow, this I've got to do something different with
Yeah.
my life because that person did this. Um, So this completely changed your
Yeah,
direction
it's a
and what you were
wake up.
doing.
People can get out of their patterns either because they realize how important it is to get out of their pattern, or their pattern is destroyed. And so they're starting from scratch and they have this opportunity to make a new pattern.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right, because what you described was you love children, you love working with children, you obviously love nature. You grew up in a redwood forest, raised by wolves, is what it sounds like. Just kidding. Um, but so you were in this pattern, but there was this other thing inside of you that wasn't really kind of jiving with
I
that.
wasn't thinking about
It
nature
was,
so
but it
much.
wasn't really in congruence of what you are, right? And then this stress, boom, said, "Whoa, wait a minute! You love children, but you also love this. Let's put them together and do this."
Yeah, I mean, I honestly said to myself, and I've said to other people, I love theater. I'm passionate about it. I've done it my whole life. And it wasn't a very practical choice. I was either
Yeah.
going to be an actress or a doctor. But I just thought, you know what? I really, really love theater. So I'm just going to do it. So I've been doing it. But then I thought, well,
Why didn't you just become
preserving
doctor to
nature
the
is
stars? You could
a
have
doctor
become the
to the
doctor to the stars.
there's a lot of different kinds of people. I think as you get
Yeah,
older, you really get that. Everyone is different, in beautiful, unique ways. So not everyone has the same approach to things. I personally, for whatever, reason I'm sure my husband did not appreciate, I'm not super motivated by money for my own
yeah,
self.
yeah,
I've been pretty fortunate in my life, so I'm not complaining, but I do things because they like uplift people. To me, that's worth more than money. I'm not worrying about that. So I wouldn't be a doctor to the stars because I wouldn't care. I was probably going to be an OBGYN if I was going to be a doctor. I care about women's health, etc. But anyway, um, I just, I really thought it, people are not going to be able to do theater. Children are not going to be able to do theater if there's no natural world that feels good and safe. If people
yeah.
get into this difficult position where they're kind of just struggling to survive, it doesn't matter. So, bottom line, a sustainable natural world that supports human life and the other kinds of lives that we need for our ecosystem on the planet of Earth, that's the most important thing. So, that's why I started putting a lot of my time and energy into that.
Yeah, yeah. No, it makes perfect sense because we get sucked into this life of, um, you're trying to make money and you find a way to make money, right? Because survival is your natural instinct, obviously, right? And so we've created this society where, and people buy into it, where it's the money is what you need to get, right?
Yes.
So whatever is the most palatable, least offensive that you can get far as work to acquire, the wealth or the money to survive is what you do instead of, the value in life is being positive and impactful and doing what you love and figuring out how to make a living out of that. Which seems to be it would be a better way to do things, right? If we valued that a little better, or push that through, and
Yeah.
maybe that's what you're thinking, do here, right?
I think
And
that that's
start.
in that book, The Future.
Oh, is it okay?
Yeah,
Futuring.
futuring. It's that
Yeah,
new idea that in the 20th century, a lot of what we did had to do with capitalism and the evolution of new technologies.
yeah.
And that was, so bright and shiny and exciting to humans and our curiosity and our creativity. And it totally makes sense. But then now we've got to this point where we realize, uh-oh, there's some negative consequences. So we need to recalibrate and still be super curious and super creative, but we need to encompass all the challenges as well and not be in denial about it and just keep going on as if we're living in the 20th century because we are not.
No,
It's a
we are
more
not.
complex system now, and we need to do whatever we can, whether that is, new technologies that help us solve problems, or it's abandoning certain technologies and going back to some basics, which are also functional. Sometimes I think about it, and I've kind of experimented around, like with soap, for instance. Everybody just, not, I shouldn't say that, but many people, including me, got into a habit of like, oh, great, we got our body wash in our plastic bottle and it smells great. And then you think later, like, oh, I used to have like a bar of soap, but I don't do that anymore. Oh, it's messy. My bar of soap is messy. And it's like, gosh, does it really matter? I could just
Well,
use a bar of soap
the
and then there'd be
packaging
no
isn't the
plastic bottle.
packaging isn't cool. The packaging isn't as cool for the bar soap.
Yeah. And I was thinking about other stuff. Like we used to use like Comet, other kinds of, when I was a child, like cleaning things that were like powders. But then somebody came up with the idea like, oh, let's dilute it in water and put it in a plastic bottle instead of a little cardboard shaker thing. And then we can sell it and we can ship it. It's going to be heavier and there's going to be way more plastic. But nobody thought about it at the time. It didn't seem like a problem. But now it's like, oh, maybe we don't need to do that. Like I personally switched to laundry detergent that's in these like little dry sheets
Yeah,
of
yeah, yeah.
soap.
That's cool
You just
stuff.
throw it
That's
in
very
there and
cool.
there's no
Yeah,
plastic bottle.
yeah,
Like, why not? These little
yeah.
things, so people slowly, hear about them. Not everybody knows it's an option. And you hear about it and you think, oh, yeah, why not? Why not go backwards or a new technology that's better somehow, that's simpler?
Yeah, change for the sake of change isn't the way we should do things, and change and advancement for the sake of wealth extraction is not how we should do things, in my opinion. And we sprint down again. You're stating about a lot of really important things. We sprint down these roads of knowledge without using our intelligence. Really, we've got these new technologies. How should we use them? Knowledge without intelligence is very, very dangerous, and we're seeing that right now, especially in social media, etc. Right? People get
Mm.
stuck in these things, and they think that anybody who spends time on social media, if they think that they're actually thinking for themselves, they're crazy. They're not.
Mm.
I mean, you're just not, and we can get into that at another time, a different show, because this
Yeah.
is about what you're doing there, and I love what you're doing there
Thanks.
with
I
the
would like to
kids.
know your opinion, as a man. One thing that I feel nervous about, honestly, I have a son. He's 25, and he's so passionate about video games. He spends so many hours playing video games. He also does other things which are valuable in an external way that I understand. But to me, I think, wow, this whole generation or becoming generations of young men that can be kind of like the warrior spirit, of men out in the world, putting it inside of pretend reality, fighting and getting tokens and getting points and all these things, but that's all within their computer screen. And yes, I get that they have their friends and that they're having friendships and conversations, but what if they were putting all that time and energy into saving nature or doing other things that are helping the wider community and not about playing games? Like, what do you think about that?
I think it's a waste of time, but I've never been a big gamer. I just, I mean, once I stopped playing, like Centipede and stuff like that at the Pizza Hut back in the '80s.
So maybe you're just older, so you
I
didn't
am.
get wrapped up
I
into
never
it.
got. I never got into it. I think it's. I think it's harmless at best, a waste of time at best, and at worst, it's incredibly dangerous. Um, just because we see people act in ways of where they live in the real world, but their mind seems to be connected to this virtual reality, and they don't understand and are not fully connected or conscious of the impacts in the real world of their actions.
Yeah, for
And we
me,
see
it's
that all
just
the time.
Like you were
in
saying
different
about
ways.
social media, that
Yeah,
people get sucked into it. And I do too. I try not
yeah,
to too much, but
sure.
it's so seductive. Oh, I'll
It's
just see
very
what my
seductive.
friends are
Likes
I'll just look at my
people.
friends' Facebook accounts, or even in my nonprofit. Well, we have to post on Instagram. We have to post on Facebook so that people will know we exist. People want to find out about us. So we've got to post. So we do. But I think for many young people, they spend so much time doing it, they forget they could be doing other things. They could be learning how
Well,
to
they
play
get
the
yeah
guitar.
they get addicted to the dopamine rush of likes, etc., and the virtual reality to them and what they think in their mind and what these videos that they produce becomes their self worth instead of actually what they're doing in life. Right? It is the perception that they believe other people have of them through those likes, etc., that becomes their reality when it isn't. They're living in real world with their physical bodies, etc., but their minds are in this virtual world, and they think
Yes.
and they're living with this incredibly dangerous and bad.
It's like a
Eh,
bifurcation.
yeah, exactly,
Your
100%,
mind is over
100%.
here, but your physical body is on the earth. And the earth needs
Exactly,
all of us to do our very best to care
exactly.
for it so that we can put things back in balance for a sustainable future.
Well, and it's all those things. I mean, you're yours and mine. I'm in recycling, et cetera. So yours and mine, our motivations are on that environmental and that type of stuff, right? But you see it also in degradation of our society and the inability for us to have differential discourse in a civil manner. It just doesn't work anyway anymore, or it's falling apart. Hopefully, it's coming back, but it's fallen apart tremendously. And that's one of the issues is people's minds are now part of it, at least in a great portion of our society, and our younger generations are their minds are living in this virtual world.
Mm.
Um, and they'll say, "Oh, that's crazy. That's great." No, it's not. They get the first thing they do. They sit down to a good meal. They take a picture of the meal. The first thing they go somewhere is find out how to have a posting. I go to the gym. I've been going to the gym for years and years and decades. I go to the gym now. People set up phones and tripods and they're not doing it for the health. They're doing it for their mental dopamine rush of being on the web, looking like they're fit and working out. It's bad. It's bad,
Yeah.
and we're seeing that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I kind of feel like as a person, I could be a grandmother. I am not, but like I'm old enough. In some families, I would be a grandmother. So I'm kind of
mhm.
like, I am this generation that knew a different lifestyle because
Sure.
how I grew up.
Yeah.
So I want to carry that knowledge, wisdom with me and offer it out to the younger people. Hey, join me. This is great. This is wonderful. And it's interesting and it's fun. It's different than playing a video game. My website is not a video game. Um, it might be more successful if it was, but
But
that's,
it's
you
using
know,
the same technology that is doing those video games, right? And that's what we're talking about here. And this is what I'm talking about: conscious capitalism, right? Okay, the video games are there for one purpose: extraction of wealth. That's it. There's no other positive that's coming out of those. Zero. Right? It may not be impacting your son or whomever in a negative manner. And I'm not trying to say that. I'm not trying to,
yeah,
say, hey, I'm 59 or 60 years old and you should do it the way we did it. Because back in the day, I walked uphill in the snow both ways, going all, that's not what I'm talking
yeah,
about. That's not what I'm talking about at all. We had plenty of things that took us down the wrong path, right? I mean, I remember when Judas Priest was gonna ruin all of our
oh,
lives, right? Or Elvis shaking his hips on TV was the worst thing in the world. We've always had the worst things in the world. That's not it. But it is utilizing that knowledge and that technology for the good of society, for the positive impacts in our life, not to make us sit in a room and enjoy running around and doing whatever the video game is, right? Call of Duty or Roblox, whatever it happens to be, right? Which is a complete waste of time. Regardless, it just is. It's not, you're not being productive in any way, and you're not learning anything in any way with those type of things. But technology could be used for the good, which is what you're doing, and that's what I talk about between knowledge and intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
You know, conscious and
Yeah,
unconscious
I'm
capitalism,
hoping.
etc.
I don't know if it'll come to pass or not, but I had this idea like, oh, if it could catch on, maybe we could have high school ambassadors for We Save the World, because many people that are going off to college are trying to get some sort of special merit that they can demonstrate so they can win their place in a university. And so I was thinking like, yeah, what if these ambassadors could inspire 100 other students in their school, for instance, to do a We Save the World mission? Then they're getting all these other people to be environmental activists as well. They're raising some money for the nonprofits. And to me, that seems like not too hard and a beautiful outcome.
I think it is a beautiful outcome. I think if you marry it, in my opinion, I add on the impacts to for profits as well. The nonprofit, I'm not disparaging the nonprofits or saying we
Yeah.
shouldn't support them in any way, shape, or form. We absolutely should, but we shouldn't um, lessen the importance of our future generations' impact on what our for profit capitalist companies do, because they really have a massive impact, right? If they were all on board, we would be in much better shape, and some of these crises wouldn't be happening, right?
Yeah.
So,
That is
I
true.
mean,
That is
yeah,
true.
I mean, like you're
Yeah.
doing, you're planting the seed of knowledge and the desire to help the environment and the youth as they grow up, and future generations will hopefully do better because of that. That's your mission. You're not
Yeah.
going to solve the world's crisis today. You're going to
No.
change the trajectory with future impact, right?
I mean,
And
everybody
that's what
has
I'm
to do
saying.
a piece, right? We're all doing some piece, but
Exactly. So
it's
if
too
you're
big for anyone to do it by themselves.
100%. So
Yeah.
if your efforts cause people to become more actionists, let's call them, and go out and help NPOs and start NPOs and do all these things, but also is producing CEOs and CFOs and COOs that are also conscious capitalists and responsible capitalists. Now we're winning both, right? Now we're really making that impact. Now we're
Yeah.
turning off the valve and we're bailing the water out of the boat,
Yeah.
right?
And there's also interesting side things that come from any creative process. Like, for instance, I made this nonprofit, and then I had this idea because I started experimenting with AI music making. So I made these really cool Eco-Hero anthems, which are on the website if anybody wants to check them out. There's like 4 of them on there right now. And I ended up going to our local waste management company, which is called Recology, because I had this idea, also coming from a performing arts background, to make some really fun, inspirational school assemblies that would inspire the students to do a better job sorting their trash. We happen to be lucky in my community. We have this, it's called a MRF. I think it stands for
Yeah,
multiple recycling
but
facility.
it's a materials reclamation facility.
Okay. So
MRFs.
there's
Yeah.
not that many of these apparently, but we happen to have one for our kind of region in my city.
Mm-hmm.
And it can keep 85% of what is put into it from our blue recycling bins out of landfill. So it's very, very highly efficient. But people have to put the stuff in the right bin. If they put it in the wrong bin, then it messes everything up and the percentages go down. So I was talking to them. I found out there's quite a few schools, mostly middle schools and high schools, where the kids are not sorting their trash as well as they could be. So those schools are closer to like 30% of their trash is being correctly, recycled and processed and all that. So I thought, oh, I can make these really cool school assemblies and inspire the students. And then one way or another, we came up with this idea like, oh, let's have a movie to kick it off, like a little short film at the beginning to kind of grab all the students' attention. and set the stage for the rest of the assembly. And that made me start making a movie called It Only Takes a Moment. So now, started last spring. We're almost done, but for one reason or another, this filmmaking process is drug on. But we're going to be coming out with this 10-minute film made in my local community with a club from a local high school that's dedicated to improving the environment. And basically, it's a little short journey led by these teenage interviewers about waste in our community. And we're trying to really raise empathy in the students for the humans that work in that industry, for the people that are sorting trash in the facility, for the man who drives the trash truck. For there's some volunteers locally who clean out the creeks and the rivers from everybody else's trash. So I think it's going to be a beautiful film when it's done. And we're just making the point, hey, it only takes a moment, kids. It's one tiny moment. You put it in the blue one or you put it in the gray one, or in my own community, we happen to also have a like commercial composting. So there's certain things, if they put it in the green bin, that will go and become, new soil for farmers. So that's something I'm interested in, even though I feel a little sad and complaining, oh, I've invested so much of my money in the nonprofit to make it, go out into the greater world. And I still hope it will. But I'm also doing these little side projects like this film that I would never have imagined doing if my mind didn't start getting into this environmental space. And maybe the film, I'm sure it'll get shown in our local schools, but maybe this film will get shown all through California. Maybe the film will get shown in schools across the United States and inspire kids in all kinds of schools all over the place to do a better job.
Right on. I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. I
You
love it.
never
Those are
know, right?
no, you don't. You follow those. You follow those inspirations, and you see what happens. I mean, that's the guide. That the guide hitting you saying, "Do this,"
Yeah.
and plant those seeds. And plant
Yeah.
those seeds.
Yeah.
Bridget, an hour flies by like boom.
Thank you so much for asking me questions and listening.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Having a
look,
great
it
conversation.
is WeSaveTheWorld.org. And you can find Bridget Palmer at, what is it? Bridget Palmer slash, or, Bridget Palmer dash We Save the World on LinkedIn.
Yeah, Bridget, you can email me, Bridget at WeSaveTheWorld.org.
Yeah.
You can
Hit
look
her
at me
up.
on
Hit
LinkedIn
her
or
up, help her. She's got the motivation and the ideas, and they're a year and a half old about, and they're going to make huge waves with the help of all of us giving her some support and making it happen. I love it, Bridget. Thank you so much for coming on.
thanks, Michael. All
And
right. Have a
everybody
great
else, thank
day.
you. Hold on, everybody else, thank you so much for tuning in and downloading the SUSTAINIACS. Until next time, peace and love.